now return to the King's Dilemma. Oh boy. Do I get to choose one? Or do we go through all of these? Let's take the map. The nootropic map. Some miners reportedly found a map of all the tunnels dug below the royal capital. At first look, it seems like a rough sketch. It's full of lines of different colors and thickness, but the scholars think it could be the key to finding secret passages. Do we study the paper? I mean, duh? After days of study, mostly looking at the paper, we conclude it must be a color experiment by a nomad kid that remotely resembles some sort of map. Oh. What a waste. We should focus on devising an actual attack plan instead of relying on some mysterious maps. Okay, I guess I lost. Damn! Okay, so that's how it is. These decisions help out here. Cannibals on the leash. We got our vultures. This wouldn't be here without that choice then, I guess, huh? Moving the vultures across the battlefields is proving to be a challenge, but we have received a report stating that some soldiers managed to calm them down using the hydrocrystallophone. Oh. Oh. Do we hire more hydrocrystallophonists? I guess. It depresses them to suicide. What if we have too many? Or what if it calms them down so much that they're ineffective? No. Using that weirdly exotic instrument, even if effective, is a risky gamble. We have no idea how it will affect our men. But the cannibals are becoming more agitated and dangerous. What the fuck? Some of them even manage to flee from their cages and run loose, creating chaos on the battlefield. Okay, well, I mean, that helped me. Nerves of steel. Let's just start at the beginning, I suppose, since we have to go through all of them. The Loyalist troops, reunited in the courtyard in front of the High Commander, are visibly nervous due to the imminent attacks. Moreover, the generals are concerned that fake news could start spreading through the troops. Shall we create chaos? I mean, yeah? After successfully infiltrating the defense forces, we spread the news that 20,000 Nkali are marching towards Libra. In little to no time, a large part of the troops fall prey to uncertainty and doubt. This agitation will surely hinder their performance. I mean, that one seems like a gimme. That one seems very obvious. Trade routes. Several trade guilds, worried about the impact of the rebellion on their business, have set up a safe trading route with the help of the Loyalist army, which ensures that merchants can conduct their business safely. This could mean a constant resupply of primary goods. However, as a result, the defenses of Libra are weaker. Should we disrupt the safe trade route? I mean, we're kind of overwhelming. Like 2 to 1. Do we need them to be weaker? I mean, I kind of gave them steam tanks, and unless I've got the steam tanks, they've got red iron armor. I mean, when you think about it, all the shit that I did, really, like, if it's all for the kingdom, we really helped them. I was honestly thinking I was going to be able to use it to take over the kingdom, but this might be my chance to take over the kingdom. I wonder if this is going to count. Do we make him weaker? So we can either make them weaker to make me more effective, or by having them allowed to resupply. Well, I mean, so this is the same thing. We stop them from being able to reinforce, resupply. But it keeps the defenses strong. Ish. Who knows what that actually means? Or we allow this to go on, they'll resupply, which prolongs the fighting, but the defenses will be weaker. The defenses in Libra. What does that mean, in Libra? Like, inside? I guess when you think about it, supplies don't matter for dead soldiers. If they are weaker, we can maybe defeat them before the supplies matter. Then again, you're always supposed to attack logistics, aren't you? Like, we have overwhelming numbers, maybe the defenses don't matter if we can disrupt their resupply in the first place. Because disrupting supplies means weak soldiers in the first place. It lowers morale, And if we have the tanks, and not them, who has the steam tanks? That's the important. The vultures apparently came with me. I'm assuming that the bombs, I'm assuming that the steam engines, all the stuff that I did came with me and the rebels. Under that assumption, we will disrupt the trade route. During the night, we send a team to destroy the bridge in Libra's port. This significantly slows down the transportation of goods from the northeast, as the merchants will now have to go further south toward the Golden Bridge. However, this cannot be considered a complete success. The troops assigned to the trade route are going back to Libra. Okay, that gave him a little bit more than I was hoping. I feel like that was a lose-lose right there anyway. Libra's outskirts, miasma. Some soldiers are contracting a strange disease. Large blisters appear on their limbs, and most of them die shortly after. Most doctors recommend we quarantine the infected, but the Black Dawn has another plan. We use them to infect the enemy. I mean... that's gonna destroy the city, though. We will conquer nothing but ashes. On the other hand, this will weaken us. But if they can be cured, and can they? I don't know. They can come back as reinforcements. No. The plan is as crazy as it is ruthless. I mean, not that we haven't done ruthless things. We're literally bleeding people for gold. The infection could spread uncontrollably, even among our ranks. We decide to quarantine the infected inside a delimited area of the city. Most of them die after a couple days, but some manage to recover. Most importantly, we keep the infection rate under control. A suspicious intruder. We have been informed that an infiltrator of the investigation team was captured while trying to sneak into the castle's library. The Royal Guard is on high alert, and an elite team has already been dispatched to the outskirts. Do we evacuate headquarters? I mean, we could probably destroy them. This will weaken us, no doubt. If we have to move, but then again, like, if they can't pin us down, they can't attack us. Yeah. The enemy knows that something is going on with the investigation unit. We immediately alert their headquarters. The building is evacuated, and every trace of the Black Dawn is destroyed. When the Royal Guard storms into the building, all they find is broken furniture and burned documents. Okay. That one seems kind of obvious, too. I can't think of an advantage to letting them be caught. Unless we were double-crossing a double-cross there. Phase 2. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright. The end call retaliation? Let's just start from the beginning. Fire in the southeast tower. Our scouts discovered that the southeast tower is an old structure with a frame mostly made out of wood. Ah, and it would have been renovated had we done that one. There's a chance to start a fire, but a strong wind could be a problem, plus we also have firefighting. Do we torch the tower? I mean... Oh, wait a minute. Did I buy both upgrades for the firefighting? And if that's the case, is it firefighting for the defenders, or is it for me? Could I control the blaze because I've unlocked those? Otherwise, we end up burning down the city. And this affects us, too, because a burning city is also going to impact our ability to infiltrate. I don't know if this means anything, the color of this. I think that the firefighting stuff is meant to be defensive. You buy all that stuff anticipating whether you're going to be a defender or an attacker. So it doesn't do us any good if the whole city catches fire. But then again, looking at it from the other perspective, it would be. This is going to help the Loyalists, though, by not burning the tower. And I mean, diverting them to a burning town. Okay, torch the tower. Fuck it. A small breach in the tower reveals the wooden frame. All it takes is one torch and the whole thing catches fire. The flames quickly engulf the entire tower. It will take a significant amount of water to extinguish the flames. Okay. Battle at the gates, castle walls. Onyx bombs. I just saw that in there. We're attacking Libra's front gates. A troop is maneuvering the battering ram within the enemy's range. There are enough men to support it, but we could use some of them to gather more units and launch a surprise attack. Use the battering ram as bait and split the unit? Yeah. The support unit is sent to gather soldiers around the battlefield. The result is a massive troop that will breach the front gates. The sacrifice of the battering unit won't be forgotten by the Black Dawn. Because we have bombs to breach the walls. Brigands are attacking the south walls. While not equipped to deal serious damage, the sheer number of them could be a problem for the Loyalist defense forces. Using onyx bombs could help the brigands get into the castle. Do we use the bombs? I mean, yeah. Why else did we get them? To conquer another kingdom is why we did it, but the bombs are dropped in the area surrounding the south wall. The explosions generate a thick smoke screen that prevents us from truly grasping the consequences of the bombing. All we can hear is people screaming, then the sound of a horn resonates through the battlefield. We've created a breach. It's going well. The end call retaliation. Our strategist recommends sending a messenger to the Encall camp just outside the walls to inform them about a hypothetical conspiracy between Sidlata and Libra's loyalists against the Encalli population. They are renowned as fearsome and proud warriors, so we have to be careful to choose who we send and how we do it. Do we equip the negotiating unit with extra red iron protections? I mean, first of all, this seems like it could backfire anyway, because they could just come down and conquer the kingdom right? Especially since we are kind of like on opposing sides, are we not? Now, regardless, we're sending somebody. We have no choice. The question is, do we equip them with extra protections? First of all, protections don't matter. They're going to slaughter them if they slaughter them. If they choose to slaughter them, the protections won't do anything. Secondly, they're touchy about red iron, because that's their stuff. And the red iron that we've been getting has been illicitly gotten. So I'm going to go with no. We decide on a simple and direct approach. A single messenger sets out for the camp, dressed in normal attire. The Ankali general is pleased by our audacity and earnestness. They will help us against the loyalist forces, but in return they ask for a big part of the loot, and we have no other choice but to agree. I also had no other choice but to do that mission anyway. Cannibal Last Resorts. The enemy is gaining vital ground outside the castle walls. Just when we were on the verge of cornering them, reinforcements from the castle push back. We have a last resort for this scenario, even if it is a desperate measure. Do we unleash the vultures on the battlefield? That's why I got them. We don't have enough hydrocrystophone. No. The sound of the instrument is drowned out by the noise of the battlefield. Cannibals are out of control and eat everything they find on their way, including our soldiers. Ah, piss. Escalade. We are starting to climb the walls. Why? We breached them. Besides traditional ladders, we have an innovative device called the ladder tunnel that allows us to climb walls while being protected in every direction. It takes more time to position, and we would be exposed to the enemy's attacks from above, but once it's in place, it's not going anywhere. Do we use it? Is it necessary since we breached the wall? We're gonna lose some people on this one, but I guess. We start setting up the ladder tunnel while using traditional ladders as a diversion. The process takes time, but it pays off. The enemy throws barrels, but they roll and bounce off the back cover of the ladder without causing any damage. More and more soldiers finally reach the top of the walls. We are ready to charge. Halbergion Heart. The Hammer of Torque. Let's do this one. A captain from Torque is in charge of an extravagant troop. He wants to use the Silver Mallet to distract the enemy and attack them with a pincer movement. The Silver Mallets, on the other hand, prefer a direct attack, and plan to use the soldiers from the Marquis as a battering ram for the upcoming battle. In both cases, the first assault will leave most of the chosen soldiers killed. Do we let the people from Torque lead the charge? They want to lead. And the other option is the Silver Hammer want to lead? I guess who's more valuable? Cult Zealots? That we are actually kind of opposed to? Or the Torques? I guess? I don't know. Let them go. The next morning, the Silver Mallets open up the way for the captain of Torque to move his people into position for a pincer movement. The enemy doesn't have enough time to find an escape route. Even with the loss of loads of Silver Mallets, the battle is won. The Halbergian Heart. A council of war has been declared. Our spy inside the castle claims to have seen a protected room in the northeast tower where the Chamberlain, the Royal Marshal, and the Vice Commander usually meet. The Chamberlain seems to be the most vulnerable, but he's oddly wearing reinforced mail. Do we target the Chamberlain? No. That sounds like bait. They can't fool us. Thanks to the detailed information left by our spy, the assassin manages to get inside the room easily. As expected, the Chamberlain is well protected, so he sticks to the plan. The assassin jumps from the large table in the center of the room and stabs the Vice Commander. Before the Royal Marshal can react, our man is gone. Phase 3. I guess the secrets of Ankist. I guess it doesn't really matter. These don't seem to be in order. The secrets of Ankist. The castle's library holds many secrets of the kingdom which can be sold at a high price. The library is fairly isolated and difficult to approach without raising suspicion, but a sneak attack could work. I mean, I'd rather not sell those things. Do we send an assassin to climb the tower? I mean, if we're just sending an assassin, then the risk-reward is like one dude, right? I'm sure the loyalists will get something out of this, just from game mechanics standpoint. I mean, I guess. Like, I'd rather not steal them and to sell. I'm presumably going to take over the kingdom. I'd like that stuff there. Like, that's literally all it says. Valuable things to steal, to sell. It doesn't say to keep the secrets for, like, knowledge or anything. Like, if we were going to steal them to use them to our advantage, that would be one thing. And this, I feel, since we did not create a treasure vault... I guess yes, then. We didn't create a treasure room. So there's no place for that stuff to be hidden. Alright. Alright. It's actually kind of funny. I mean, this is what I predicted was going to happen, but I thought it was going to happen to me. Here's my opportunity to do this. I don't know. Let's see if it actually works out first. A masked assassin climbs the west tower and enters through a window. 2 throwing knives take care of the guards standing near the entrance. The librarian chancellor is silenced before she can make any noise. The secrets of Ankist are now in our hands, including the Book of Choices. I called it. I fucking called what that improvement was for. That the things would be stolen. What I didn't know was that I would have the opportunity here. It just seemed so obvious. Like, it was so important. So much was attached to that improvement, right? Had we been loyalists? Defenders? We would have just had our shit stolen. Okay. So that's an interesting metagame. Like, you can set the kingdom up to fail if you know you're going to be a traitor. Royal family, castle courtyard. The sound of an explosion interrupts the battle inside the castle. The walls are crumbling. From the fresh breach, a contingent of our infantry, led by Larso, the Asher commander, invades the castle's yard, but they stumble upon enemy forces. There's an opening near the tower that leads to the royal apartments. Do we send Larso after the royal family? I guess. Like, should we not ask him? Should we not ask him? So here's what I'm thinking. If we say no, it's going to be like, that's the right call, because Larso suddenly knows the movements of the troops. But if we say yes, it could also be, Larso uses his precognition to navigate his way to the royal chamber. Like, this feels like a trap. This feels like we're about to lose him. Because we get overconfident thinking, oh, Larso's got precognition, he'll be fine, and then he's not. But he's got precognition, so he should be fine. Right? I don't know. Fuck, go. Thanks to his Asher abilities, Larso sneaks behind the enemy lines and through the tower to reach the royal apartments. The queen and her children are still there in hiding. So what if... I wonder if Larso being a precog is inevitable, or if it's possible he's like a character that we can use, but if he doesn't eat the bread, then I don't know. Without heirs, the royal family will have no right to the kingdom. Corpse unit. Our scouts have noticed the enemy has started to retrieve the bodies of their officers from the battlefield outside the castle. It seems they're using the embroidered names on the uniforms to recognize the officers. Okay, well that's what that improvement does. Did we loot the officers?
I guess?
It seems the officers of Ankist were well paid. There's quite a lot of gold we can distribute to the soldiers, raising their morale. Alright. Interesting. Interesting to see what improvements are deliberately made for the traitors and the loyalists, although I wonder if the story would be slightly different. Like, if you are the loyalists, you would raise morale by retrieving the bodies of fallen officers. I wonder if both of those improvements are double-edged. Well, probably, because if it's like the chamber, the treasure chamber, that would be a double-edged sword, right? Burning Libra. A huge fire is devouring the outskirts. Having such a large part of the city inaccessible could be really convenient for us, but the firefighter force is trying to tame the fire. We're wondering where they're going to get all that water. Did we interfere with the operations? Did I finish? No. No. So I called it right when we made the improvements, because I did make the improvements, but it didn't finish. Interfere with the operations. Despite our doubts, we sent a team to disrupt their operations. However, upon reaching the burning part of the district, they're greeted by a wall of fire and a hot storm of ashes falling over them. As there were no water tanks in the area, the firefighters were sent on a suicide mission, and we just follow them to the same destiny. Ah. Oops. Yeah. Okay. That was confusing. Like, I felt we could have disrupted their operations, but, you know, I knew they didn't have the tanks, so I get... Okay, well, whatever. Whatever. We're almost now 3-1 on this, so I think we're doing fine. Dualak's Dark Trait. Even if famous for their self-concern, Dualak offers all their soldiers to the cause. Their hate of the king's bloodline makes them unstoppable against the loyalists, but they express a preference to join the attack on the royal apartment. They seem to be moved by something. Do we fulfill their request? Sure. Highly motivated soldiers sounds good. Soldiers from Dualak are deployed at the head of the army, and it pays off. During the battle, they managed to kill and wound loads of loyalist soldiers. I don't really like the grammar they use here. It doesn't... I mean, it's very amateurish. Strangely, they got inside the royal apartment while the fighting was still going on and stole a cube-shaped object placed near the king's bed. That doesn't sound good. That is a treasure. Priestesses of the Order of Spiritual Enlightenment of Bloden are used to giving comfort to dying soldiers on the battlefield. According to the general, their actions are not just risky, but also offer 0 rewards. They could sell our secrets if captured. Do we pull back the priestesses? I think that's going to lower morale. I mean, it pretty much says they're going to get captured if we let them go. And they're probably going to disregard our orders anyway. I think we're overwhelmingly going to win, though. I don't think we need to worry about it. Now let them go. The Order is a bunch of fanatics of the Mother. We don't care about them. The priestesses of the spiritual enlightenment will stay on the battlefield, taking care of those who are on the verge of death. Well, in the spiritual enlightenment, these are the psychic ones, right? Battle is over. The traitors won. The sun must set before rising again. The king's death was only the first part of the attack. The king's treasury was broken into and split up among many profiteering rebels, stealing all the gold they could carry with them and removing the precious stones from what was too heavy to move. All the libraries of the kingdom were burned, including the royal library. All of Isidora's research notes were lost, as well as the innumerable natural and technological discoveries made by our scholars throughout history. We didn't get to use the damn steam engines. All the chronicles of the realm are also lost to the fire, making it difficult for future historians to trace the ascending parabola of the kingdom of Ankist and assess the cause of its abrupt collapse. This is sort of the opposite of... We went full-on Luddite, full-on Valerian Jihad. That's not so great. It is rumored that only the Book of Choices survived the fires, and it was carried away by masked members of the Black Dawn. The Loyalists are too few, too weak, and too divided to stem the tide of chaos. Some of the grand houses courageously try. Yet, even those committed to put up a joint resistance are torn apart from the inside, divided by treachery among their own ranks while trying to face an unmatchable force. The many Black Dawn infiltrators bring down the loyal houses one by one, assassinating their key members and leaving the rest unable to organize a resistance to match the widespread chaos. Through the destruction of the political center of Ankist, the kingdom collapses into a vast sea of fragmented territories, vying against each other for political supremacy. Black Dawn succeeded in its task. A new Dark Age awaits. Rule of the Reforgers. Your house prevailed among the betrayers and came to be known as the Reforgers. History will remember your dynasty as the rebuilders of civilization, forgetting that this status was achieved through betrayal and destruction. I still feel like this is in keeping with who the house was, though. Like, our house started from bandits and merchants and pirates. Some say it was a member of your house who dealt the killing blow to the king and stole his crown, yet these are just whispers among educated historians erased from the official chronicles. You wait for the chaos and blood to cool down before reclaiming the ruins of Libra, slowly restoring a semblance of order and tranquility to the exhausted survivors. After the collapse of the kingdom, you have no enemy left to curse your name, and history will celebrate the new rule of the Reforgers. Thanks for playing. Alright, well, that did not end quite how I thought. I'm gonna be honest though, like, I was not prepared. Like, I don't think it is possible, without knowing some things, to win. I think the biggest factor there is having lots of allies at the end, because, you know, I think that's why I won. Just because my overwhelming forces matched with the already overwhelming forces would... it made it overwhelming and just inevitable that I was going to win. So, like, focusing more towards a playstyle where you are going to make allies definitely seems like a key point there, but you need other things. You need, like, the treasure vault. You need, you know, the jackals, the bombs, the steam engines. What the hell happened to the steam engines? Damn it! Where'd the steam engines go? The red iron, choosing to give that to the soldiers, I know that gives you a special item. In my case, it was when I went to war with the Ankali, which apparently became inevitable anyway. I didn't get to see if I fulfilled my goal. What was that all about? See, that's something else about this game. Like, I'm kind of on the fence about it. Like, I admire the storytelling and the idea about it. But I don't know that this was necessarily a good game. Like, I have not played the board game. I don't know anything about it. I kind of have an idea now of what it is probably like. And I think that I can see, looking at this, where it diverges. I can see some of the remnants and artifacts from the board game that they put into this game that don't actually seem to do anything, or that doesn't work as well. And that is why I'm not sure this is all that good, to be honest with you. It's interesting, for sure, but, like, my initial reaction, you know, that it was, without knowing anything about the board game, that it was a decision-based game, where you know, make decisions about a kingdom, and then it branches the story and all that stuff. Like, I have yet to play a game that makes those claims that lives up to them. Just, Banner Saga, Suzerain, like everything that I have played that makes a decision-based claim that your decisions matter, they change it doesn't do it. And this in particular doesn't do it. This doesn't feel like a decision-based game. This feels like reading a choose-your-own-adventure story, right? Like, there are definite paths, there are right and wrong answers, and the only replayability comes from just trying to 100% it or something, because you can trace the right choices. Compare this to like King of Dragon Pass. King of Dragon Pass has events and storylines and whatnot that will happen, but not in a particular order, and not all of them will happen. Like, you'll come across the same things again and again, but it's a different playthrough every time, and you can make major shifts based on your decisions. You becoming king, there are many routes to that. This game, not so much. Like, once you've played through one time, as I did, I saw diverging paths and where they left off to. That element is gone from here. Once you have played a couple times, you know the correct path. It's no longer, just a randomness of whatever it is. It is a labyrinth. It is a maze. You can get there the right way. When I get to the king, I can probably pick the other choice that doesn't turn him into the Mad King. I can map that out. So, for replayability, it's not there, and it is kind of disappointing that once you know the story, you know the story. It helps you just get better the next time you play through, and eventually you'll pare it down to the correct path, and then you're done. So, that part is iffy to me. Other things, though. What happened? What happened with the story? I didn't fulfill my goals. What impact did those have on the game? I don't know. Very obviously, that part is a hanger-on from the board game, right? All the players would be playing from a house. They would have their secret mission that they would have to do, and that would be what would dictate the votes that they would make, right? I imagine that the whole corrupting enemies and the balance of whatever, right? Like, that takes on a social aspect in the board game where you're trying to convince players, not the computer, which way you want to go with it, right? So, like, there's a little bit more sinister element to that, because, like, for me, where I'm playing, that decision I made to disrupt the wedding. For the story, having the United Kingdom probably would have been fantastic, especially if I was to play for a loyalist ending, being able to call the Ankali to come help, right? And if I had been playing as the Coden House, that would have fulfilled that goal. So, like, from a board game perspective, then my decision to disrupt that made sense, because I was trying to prevent someone else from winning by completing their goals, and then help me the chance to conquer a kingdom, which never seemed to happen unless this counted. Did this count? I don't know, because it didn't show me the end screen for the goals. But like, that part makes sense in a board game. It doesn't make sense here. Because if it didn't have an impact, disrupting someone from completing, like, if I had allowed Coden to complete their goal, I guess what it would have meant then was, since at the end here they choose the opposite side, then they would have been allowed to call the Ankali to their aid. So I guess I can see where that could have affected the story, since they were not allowed to be allies with anybody. But the goal part of it is what screws with me, because that doesn't seem to do anything. Like, the decisions I made were sort of based upon assumptions on how I was going to get those goals, thinking that those goals would mean something. And it turns out that they didn't. I was thinking from the perspective of a board game that it didn't matter what happened in the story as long as I won. Well, I only won because I actually ended up being in the story at the end, Like, I chose to win based upon just following along and destroying everything, and with the Black Dawn and all that stuff. Like, I don't know, I think the goal was confused just because of the translation into the computer game. It's not the same. You know, like, it's weird, and for that reason, I, again, don't think the game works right. Like, I think they needed to change just a bit there. But at the same time, I do appreciate that the decisions did matter, you know? Like, I could see bits and pieces of it, like the treasure room. That came into play in the end there. Having the vultures came into play there. You know, your decisions do, in fact, help change things in ways that... I think that the preparations probably gave me a lot more advantage in that regard. But I also think that you can win without them, depending, you know. Like, I think that if you want to win, if you want to beat the Black Dawn, if you want to maintain with the Loyalists, that requires you to be good at the game. You have got to be making the optimal choices so that you get all the crowns, you know. And when you know the missions and what they could potentially do and how they could shift things, like, if you knew the numbers, you could crunch it and do the optimal route. But, you know, knowing that in hindsight, I don't know. I am disappointed that we missed out on some things, just because knowing that there is an optimal route, you want to pick those things. But then you're left to think, well, but what if I don't? Because I've got a goal here that I'm trying to, you know, and the whole house thing, like the whole history of the house, thinking that, well, I want to play it this way, but you don't. You don't, it doesn't matter. You don't have to. It has no impact whatsoever, and that's unfortunate. I feel like that should have maybe, you know, because of the way this is structured, because it's not sort of more open, there's no penalty for not playing to your past, right? Like, my past for that house, they were supposed to be kind of subversive thugs, but also they came historically from the ancient kingdoms. We should have been on the side of the cult, right? But ultimately that doesn't matter, because that's not how you're going to win the game. Like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe it would have been better had they kept that part of what seemed to be in the board game. I'm going to have to read the rules to the board game. I'm going to have to look up a YouTube video or something to see how it works, how you win the board game. But, like, if you got points based upon getting your goals and maintaining, like, the role-playing aspect of your family and all this stuff, or if there were penalties for, you know, choosing a choice against the grain of your people, all that stuff, I don't know. It felt too much on rails, I guess. And that's why I'm not fully satisfied with the game. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I am impressed with some of the way things came together. But I was led there. And the fact that I could see behind the curtain sometimes made that more apparent. You know, when I was no longer thinking about it in terms of, oh, I gotta save the kingdom, and more along the lines of, well, like, this is the optimal play for the result that I want. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just rambling now. Yeah, that's the King's Dilemma Chronicles. Interesting game. I personally might play again just to see if I can get closer. But yeah, like, this seems to be one of those games where they intend for you to replay just because actually winning the good ending would seem so difficult. And maybe just I might play it again to finish some of the storylines that I didn't get to see, or something like that. Like, I'm still curious about all the people we sent off. What happened to them? I don't know. Would something major have happened if that guy came back around on his round-the-world expedition? Because right now he's going to come back to something very different. Or was that just a red herring and he was never meant to be finished? Was that just a waste of my time? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I will see you in the next Let's Play.